Good evening, everyone. Welcome to WIF Academy. Today we have with us the WBS panel consisting of Arzoo Bariana and Rishul Mittal. Arzoo is a year 3 management student. Apart from scoring well on exams, she's done a good job of securing summer internship offers from Citibank and Bank of America. She's an incoming graduate analyst at the Bank of America GCIB Credit Division. She also happens to be the first ever careers head at Warwick India Forum. Rishul is a year 2 accounting and finance student. He has wonderfully managed academics with extracurricular activities. He was the marketing director at TEDx Warwick and also the head of corporate relations at the London Consulting Summit. He has secured spring internship offers from Fidelity International, AlphaSights, L'Oreal, and PIMCO. We're very glad to have you here. Welcome to this event. So the agenda for today is to cover certain module specific as well as general questions related to the summer exams for for WBS courses that will include management and accounting and finance. So starting right off, the first question is what kind of questions did you particularly find difficult in the financial management module for year 1 and how did you tackle them? If any of you would like to answer that.
So during financial management, I faced difficulties in questions related to CAPM pricing model and the option bond pricing model because the numericals were kind of complex. And one topic which was really complex was dividend policy because the questions contained a lot of technical stuff like uh, when will the share price increase or what are rights dividend and different things. So the approach which I took was to first go through the lecture material and the pre-recorded material in depth and take detailed notes so that I was able to understand all the different formulae, their derivations, and the theoretical part, and then approach the numericals so that I was able to grasp all the concepts and then solve it. And I think that's the best way to handle them.
Thank you, Rishul. The next question is again for you. Are textbooks important for exam preparations for modules like financial management and management accounting?
So for both of these modules, I think the lecture content and the seminar content is self-sufficient, especially for financial management because there's so much to study. I think if you just complete the seminar questions, it's more than sufficient because the questions in the exams are mostly seminar questions. They just paraphrase it in different forms. And even the past exam question papers are kind of similar to the exam questions that you get. Apart from that, if you're not able to understand any concept in management accounting or financial management, then I would say that refer to the textbooks because they contain detailed explanations of all the topics. Apart from that, if you think that you need more practice with numerical questions, if you think that the seminar questions are not sufficient for you, then I would say that do practice numericals for management accounting from the textbook.
Thank you. Arzu, I understand you did management, organization, and society in year 1. So modules like that contain a lot of theoretical content. So what specific tips would you give to students in order to cover up each theory?
I think to begin with, if you're not confident with everything that's been mentioned with the content, is to first take a glance at the past papers. I feel like there's a repeated pattern. Things that are of importance, like certain theory topics, they will be either asked alternatively or every year. So those are your topics to prioritize on the get-go. And then there are, for revision material specifically, there are sites like studocu.com, and there are students that from work itself have posted like a list of theory topics that they think are important, or certain theories have been completely consolidated into one-liners or two-liners, so that can kind of spark memory when you're doing last-minute revision. And lastly, with theory, you just sort of need to understand where it applies, also whilst knowing what the content of it is. But your questions will probably revolve around the application of theory and less what the theory actually is. So that's also another thing to keep in mind.
Thank you, Arzu. The next question is addressed to the floor. Few modules like business analytics have online exams and require the use of Excel. That's something that we are not used to using during exams and would consume a lot of time. Any specific advice to ensure that we manage time well during the exams?
Okay, so I think the best way is to create frameworks in Excel before your exams so that when you get the numbers, just put the numbers in your Excel sheet so that you can run the regression model or any other model and get your answers. And you can take a screenshot and put it in your sheet. And apart from that, make sure that like it's an open book exam. So make sure that you have all the notes and lecture content open like besides you, so that if there's regression model or any formula or any other thing which you are not able to remember at the moment, so you can just refer to it real quick and complete the modeling, because Excel takes quite a lot of time. And if you prepare all the structures beforehand, you will be able to complete it real quick.
I mean, just to echo what Rishul already said, if it's a fixed time exam, I think you can be assured that nothing that they'll throw at you will be very Excel intensive. So everything will usually just be plug in. And a good thing about using Excel in general with finance exams is if you can plug in values and then visualize them in graphs and then just, export them into your answer sheets, that really adds value to your answers, and it's kind of good on the eyes. So there are some cookie points with that. So don't be intimidated. And especially if it's fixed time, it'll simply be plug in and visualization only.
Thank you for that answer. How would you recommend preparing for the business law module for year two? There are numerous case studies to learn, and the way we're supposed to answer is quite different from other modules. So, how to go about it?
Yeah, so with the case studies, A, you need to prioritize the ones that set precedents. B, since it's possibly an in-person exam as well, I think you want to probably make a list of every case that you come through with each week's topic. And what I know is that you also need to memorize the dates. But I would still prefer getting the date wrong versus the case wrong itself when you're trying to apply it. And with writing the paper, it's you don't essentially have to make it essay-ish structured. You simply have to cut to the chase and write the answer to what case applies to this situation. And your seminars are your Bible when it comes to law-based modules. They're a perfect example of how to apply what you learn in your lecture to actual exam-based questions. And again, I think even if you've been taking these modules from either Rob or Hassan, they usually spoon feed you this stuff. So anything that they may have highlighted as exam important, you probably want to revise that as much as you can.
The approach which I took to memorize all the cases was to use flashcards. So on one side of the flashcard, I used to write the name of the case and the law, and on the other side, the explanation along with why in which court was it used and why. And this way I used to memorize all the 70-80 cases during my first year, and even now in my business law 2 module I'm using the same approach. And this ensures that you're able to memorize the names, the dates, as well as the description of the law. And to follow structure in the exam, I think it's a very basic structure to answer the question. You just have to write which case law applies to the question and then explain why does it apply and your views. And I think if you follow the structure in all the questions, then you're good to go.
Thank you, Rishul. The next question is, with respect to financial reporting 1 and 2, how would you suggest we prepare for the essay questions? What are the topics you think are most important for these? Rishul, if you would like to go ahead and answer this question.
So for financial reporting 1 and 2, especially for 2, there are so many different topics, and every topic has its own tailored approach. So for example, if you're talking about intangible assets, then there are certain assumptions which we take for that particular concept. So you need to make sure that you are learning all those assumptions so that when there's a particular question related to intangible assets in the exams, so you're fulfilling all those assumptions and then answering the question supporting with those assumptions. And similarly for all the other concepts which are there in FR2 from week 1 to 10, make sure that you are through with all of them, because you need to mention each and every small detail in the exam to get points. Apart from that, financial reporting 1 is not that difficult as compared to FR2, because the technicals are not that hard, and it's related to financial accounting, which we did in year one. So if you have a strong base in financial accounting, you can just go through all the lecture slides and seminar content, and financial reporting one should be good to go.
Thank you for the answer. What preparation do you recommend for business law, given it is a fairly different subject for students doing WBS courses? Rishul, if you'd like to answer that.
So business law can be divided into two aspects. One, the case studies, and second one, the theoretical aspect. For the theoretical aspect, you have to memorize each and everything, the different types of codes and what types of cases are done by these codes. So all these things have to be memorized by heart, and there's no particular approach to the theoretical part. And for the case laws, as I mentioned before, that you can use flashcards to learn all the dates, the names, and the description. And whoever your professor is, Rob or Hassan, they give a tailored approach which you need to follow, and it's very logical, in which you need to explain the case law which you're applying to the question. Why does it apply? Which code does the case go to? And the entire description of the law. So if you if you use this approach in all your questions, it should the answer should flow in a very logical way. And for the theoretical questions, you will get cases you will get like 4 to 5 cases, and you need to choose either 3 or 4 of them depending on the number, and then every case will be for 10 marks. So you need to make sure that you're providing all the necessary details in the description, because it's for 10 marks and they are looking for all the accurate details. So make sure that you're learning the entire description of the cases and not just the key pointers.
Yeah, additionally, I think I've already previously mentioned this to docu.com, and I'm kind of emphasizing on it because it was pretty efficient when it comes to revision. There's an 80 to 90 page doc for both business law 1 and 2. And if you already know the content, they're very easy to skim through, but it usually has everything consolidated. And even like Rishul mentioned, there's a theory aspect to it and then a case application aspect to it. It's really good with sort of differentiating between those two sections and consolidating it in those documents. So if you guys can, sign up to that site, they're free if you kind of contribute material to it as well. I think that will kind of speed up the revision process for both modules.
Thank you. The next question is, with reference to the Finance 1, Financial Markets and Fundamentals of Finance modules, what has been your approach towards preparing for these modules?
So I think for these modules, the best thing is to first go through the lecture material in depth, and followed by your pre-recorded and seminar material, because the seminar material covers all the numerical aspects which they teach in the pre-recorded material and the lecture material. So make sure that you are making detailed notes of all the weeks so that you're able to apply those application in your numerical part. Apart from that, make sure that you are covering the entire syllabus along with the tutor. And if you're not able to understand anything, just clear it on the spot, because if we pile up the doubts in Finance 1, it becomes quite difficult to understand all of it later. So just make sure that you are understanding all the concepts, because there's nothing to memorize in this. It's all application based, and you need to understand all the concepts in order to solve the numericals. Otherwise, you won't be able to.
Yeah, so with fundamentals of finance, I think essentially even the questions that they pop up that they put onto the lecture slides are actually really helpful if you can revise them through. Some of them have actually been repeated in the exams before. And if you're revising through the past papers, the last year's paper, the majority of the cohort found extremely difficult. So if you're unable to tackle it, I don't think they will make it as hard, but I think it's a good reference to see how much you already understand the module to be able to actually solve those questions. So if you are answering those questions, don't worry about time, but see if you can tackle them, because honestly, it was not very time to difficulty well ratioed when we actually got them. And in fundamentals of finance, I think a few topics to prioritize are the capital asset pricing model, market efficiency, bond pricing, and options. So we were continually told that they were important topics that you should definitely prioritize while revising for the module.
Thank you for that answer. Modules like Finance 2, Corporate Finance are comparatively more technical and difficult than most modules. So, what would you recommend to score well in the exam and tackle complex questions?
If you take fundamentals of finance, that already is great because a lot of it is repetitive when it comes to corporate finance, and you'll probably find it easier as well. I think with corporate finance, and actually this applies to fundamental of finance as well, make sure you're learning the graphs, because if you can draw them out and illustrate what you're talking about, it's very easy to comprehend, and they know exactly what you're trying to indicate. And some of the topics that I'd say I prioritized was payout policy, M&M's Proposition 1 and 2. There also probably financial derivatives were not covered in fundamentals of finance, if I'm not wrong. So that is also something you can prioritize. And for both modules, doing your seminar questions and looking for those questions that actually pop up on the lectures are a good way to understand if you fully can solve any question that might be thrown at you in the exam.
And some of the questions in the exam show a repeated pattern. So make sure that you do the past papers, because you'll find a lot of questions which are being repeated on all the exams. So it's definitely going to be there in the next exam as well. Apart from that, some difficult concepts were Black-Scholes formula and IP related questions. So make sure that you are doing all the seminar questions and the questions which are there incited within the lectures and the pre-recorded material, because they do pop up in the exams as well.
Thank you. Azu, we know that you did marketing research module for year 2. So what was your preparation like for the module?
So I think with marketing research, there's a group assignment. So basically everything that you were needed to apply in the group assignment gets repeated in the exam. You just need to understand research objectives, methodologies, and you just need to understand the frameworks that are pretty much very comprehensively already available in the content. I would say past papers here were most beneficial. Your seminars usually already helped you in your group assignment. So now you can just totally put your attention to past papers. If you invested enough time doing your group assignment, I think the exam will be pretty easy to tackle as well. They follow similar formats.
Thank you. I think we're done with the course-specific questions as of now. We would like to move on to more generic ones. So the first one is, how much importance does a pathway hold post-graduation for placement purposes? If Arzu, you'd like to answer that.
So in my experience, if it's recruitment specific, I'll be honest, it does not matter as much. They're open to people from diverse backgrounds, so it doesn't matter if you're doing management with finance. But I will say yes, personally, it might add value, because when you take, for example, a finance specific pathway, you're sort of already incorporating so many finance intensive modules. So you probably will be able to understand more complex jargon or just concepts while you're at work. So it's going to be a personal preference here. If it's from a recruitment standpoint, honestly, I personally think there's no leverage to having a specific pathway.
Rishul, would you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just echoing that, if you think that you want a career in marketing, so make sure that you take marketing modules, because they reflect that you are interested in marketing on your CV. And similarly, if you want to apply to internships and grad roles related to finance, investment banking, accounting, etc., so take modules depending on that. Although the recruiters don't really look for specific modules, but it's good to have the knowledge in case you have technical interviews.
Thank you. The next question is, what would be your advice to students applying for spring and summer internships the coming year?
So personally, I didn't apply to any springs, but what I can tell is that I think they're less technical focused, more motivation and competency focused. So if you guys can get engaged with the firms that you're interested in, maybe just speak to seniors, cold email, that's enough groundwork set for a spring. You just need to show that you're willing and looking forward to learn about A, the industry, and B, what differentiates this firm from the rest. For summers, I think that's when the more technical aspect gets incorporated as well. My advice would be is engage in as much as extracurricular and societies as you can. As much as your grades matter, I think a lot more in your interviews will be about what you actually did to further your motivation in this specific role that you'll apply to. And yeah, network as much as you can. I think they really help boost your application process, make it easier, and be resilient, because these application processes can be pretty, they can take some time. There's a lot of luck involved in it. So as soon as you get a head start on it, the better for you, and speak to your seniors because they'll be the best when it comes to helping you very hands-on.
Yeah, to add on for Springs, practice numerical, logical, and verbal reasoning assessments because they're really important. And there are a lot of paid and free websites like Job Test Prep, Graduates First, etc. And make sure that you're practicing all of them because the first step in almost 99% of the Spring applications are aptitude tests. And when you're through them, then make sure that you are practicing video recordings on camera because the next step will be hire you or a virtual interview in which you will get on-the-spot questions and you will need to record your motivation for the company and your competencies. So make sure that you are comfortable speaking in front of the camera and just network a lot on LinkedIn before applying to these jobs because when you'll be asked by this company, so if you'll have knowledge about the company by networking with various people, you'll be able to answer that by speaking with these many people. I've learned this about the company, and this is what motivates to apply for this role. And just make sure that you apply on the first day or within the first week of the application opening because it's really important as all the applications are on a rolling basis. And if you apply later, the chances are reduced. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Also, I know this is very basic and obvious, but get your fundamentals ready for your Springs already, like CVs. They're actually the initial step. So if you're just applying to Springs, I think everyone should probably try to attend a society CV clinic. I know that the careers team will do this year at WIF. I think they're just an excellent way to be able to get in touch with people who actually are willing to help you. Be able to get past those initial stages that actually loads of people get stuck on. And just by attending one of these sort of sessions, you kind of gain additional insight on what the process will look like for you. So definitely get a head start on that.
Thank you so much for those answers. I think with that, we'll come to the end of the event. And we're very grateful to you for all your inputs, and we're absolutely certain that this will be very helpful to all our students. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.